I'm Ian Adamansing. We are in the Vancouver newsroom of the CBC on what has been a very tragic night. We continue to follow the major breaking news in France. 80 people dead, dozens injured after a truck plowed through a crowd gathered to celebrate Bastille Day. But first, the update from Calgary we were dreading. Police now say they found a body. They believe it's the missing 5-year-old girl, Talia Marsman. Let's go to Calgary now. The CBC's Aaron Collins has been following this story, and he joins us with the latest on this from our Calgary newsroom. Aaron?
Ian, a tragic night to be sure. It's a really sad ending to an already tragic story here in Calgary. Calgary police have called down that Amber Alert that's been in place here since Tuesday morning. Investigators are saying that they found the body of a little girl and that they do believe it is that of Talia Marsman. The 5-year-old was found to be missing from her Northwest Calgary home earlier in the week when her mother was discovered dead there. Police went to the home after the family of Sarah Bailey had called them when she didn't show up for work at her waitressing job. Since then, an extensive search for her daughter Talia has been focused mostly on Calgary. That is until it sort of shifted to the east of the city after a man was arrested and taken into custody in connection to those crimes. So, as many as 100 or so officers were told were involved in that search of a wide swath of land to the east of the community of Chestermere, which is about a half-hour drive outside of Calgary throughout the day. And police say that's where they did find the body of a little girl on a rural property. And again, Ian, they do believe that's the body of 5-year-old Talia Marsman.
And we're standing by here. We're waiting for an update from the Calgary Police Service. The last update we got many hours ago, they were talking about how they were zeroing in on a suspect. And Aaron, as you'll remember, it was an interesting moment. They had surveillance video from a house, I guess it would have been, that saw Talia and the suspect getting out of the mother's car, the mother, of course, deceased, and then they saw them get into another sedan. That sedan was intercepted in a parking lot after that. That's when they got the suspect. The suspect, the police were saying, was, I think they said, 100% uncooperative. But they knew enough about that suspect's whereabouts that it led them to the field where they were searching all day today, and the police inspector was talking about how he realized how ominous that was. You talked to the father of Talia, who was never described as a suspect here, is not the person who's been arrested, but you talked to the relative of the father, an uncle, I think, earlier today. Tell us about what he was saying.
That's right, I did. I spoke to an uncle who's actually out in Nova Scotia, although he had spent some time here in Calgary, so knew Colin Marsman and Talia quite well, spent a lot of time with them. He was speaking on behalf of the family, obviously echoing the sentiment that we heard from the Hamilton family, who were speaking on behalf of Sarah Bailey, hoping that Talia would be found safe and sound, and offering his condolences to Sarah Bailey's family about her. So it didn't seem to me when I spoke to him that there was any kind of belief that Mr. Marsman was involved in the abduction or death, as we now know, of his daughter. That seemed to be the farthest thing from Barry Marsman's mind at the time when I talked to him. And of course, this situation has been so fluid, you don't really know what to make of that. At this point, it seems that those relatives may have been correct in those assertions, but certainly they were offering their condolences to the Bailey family, the Hamilton family, and also saying that Mr. Marsman was distraught and that he just wanted to have his daughter back.
And for those of you who are just tuning in now, watching us on CBC and CBC News Network, we are waiting for an update from the Calgary Police Service on the discovery of a body believed to be young Talia. As we know, her mother already had been found dead, and we now know more about the person who has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Let's show you some video that's just into our newsroom as we look at these pictures of Edward Downey about to come out of that Calgary Police Service vehicle. He's going to be back in court on Wednesday. He just appeared before a justice of the peace. He's been given some time to get in touch with a lawyer. While in custody, he's not allowed to have any contact with Colin Marsman. He was wearing a bright tie-dyed shirt. You can't see it here, obviously, under the jumpsuit. CPS officer accompanying him to and from his appearance with the Justice of the Peace, and the hearing was done over CCTV. He was in the jail, and in the Calgary courtroom they were watching him on closed-circuit television. So those pictures we just saw, Edward Downey, he has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count for the death of the mother. The last I heard, the cause of death of the mother has not been released publicly, and of course the other death, little Talia. And Aaron, it's been a long day. As I say, the police acknowledging that that search in the rural area did have an ominous tone to it. And tell us about the developments in the last little while when we finally discovered that the Amber Alert had been lifted.
Well, we knew something was likely to happen tonight because the man who has now been charged was arrested about 24 hours ago, and if charges weren't laid before this evening, of course, he would have to be released. So we were expecting something to happen tonight. Of course, the thing that no one saw coming and everyone hoped wouldn't come was the finding of little Talia's body. Obviously, that's not something anyone wanted to see, and while we were sort of waiting for some news tonight, that's certainly not the news we were hoping for. The news has been kind of rolling in waves. It's fluid. This story's been moving all day long. I've been on it since about 5 o'clock in the morning Mountain Time, when I was sort of when things started to start moving. I guess we started hearing that someone had been brought into custody. Then later on, we found out that person had been arrested. We found out that the search had started. The things sort of falling into place, but we were still piecing things together, really. And even as you were just saying the name of the man who's been charged, that's the first I've heard of it. That's how quickly this is moving. That's how fluid this is happening. We did know, of course, that this was the man who had been in custody for about 24 hours now. But we're learning things minute by minute now. This is a very fluid situation, and unfortunately, not the outcome that anyone was hoping for in this story.
We are live in the Mountain Time Zone on CBC News Network, and CBC Television will be replaying this program in the Pacific Time Zone. But the reason we're staying live with Aaron, with the shot, as you can see, of that lectern at the Calgary Police Service, is that this is such a tragic story, of course, but also such an important story. And I know a lot of people, particularly in Alberta and British Columbia, interested in finding out what the Calgary Police Service will say about this story. So let me just recap for a moment before we go back to Aaron where we're at in this story. The mother was at home. She was missing at first. The police looked for her. She was in the basement suite, I guess it was, that was rented in Calgary. They found her body, and her 5-year-old daughter, Talia, was missing. She is not together with the father of the child. Police, though, very careful to say that he was not a suspect. They had been speaking to him. He had been cooperating with them. And then what seemed to be a major break in this case today, when the police came forward and said that by piecing together surveillance video and perhaps other evidence, but the most graphic evidence they were offering up this morning was the surveillance video that showed somebody described as a stocky black man with a girl that looked like Talia. They had gone from the deceased mother's car, to a gray sedan. That gray sedan was eventually tracked down to a parking lot, and the suspect was arrested. He was not cooperating with police. He was in custody, and the time was starting to run in terms of how long Calgary police could keep him in custody without charging him. And they almost were at the 11th hour in that time frame before they have in fact charged him with first-degree murder. And in case you're just tuning in, let's show you those pictures newly into our newsroom of the suspect, who, as you just heard from Aaron, this name only released in the last few minutes, Edward Downey. He was appearing before a Justice of the Peace by closed-circuit television, and he will have an opportunity to get back into court on Wednesday once he's in touch with a lawyer. So let me see, as you can see, as I can, the Calgary Police Service lectern is still empty. The other big story, of course, that we're following tonight is the terrorist attack in Nice, France. 80 people dead. Of those who are injured, some of them critically injured. We have quite a bit of coverage, analysis. We'll hear from some Canadians who were on the scene, and talking about the aftermath of that. So all of that is still to come in the hour. But let's go back to Aaron Collins now. And Aaron, one of the things that I've been curious about as we've covered this story in the last few days, it's been a tough time for the Calgary area, for southern Alberta, dealing with at least two, notorious tragic cases of missing children who ended up, we ended up with murder charges in both of those cases. And I wonder, from a wider perspective in Calgary, what's it been like as people have had to cope with yet one more case like this?
Yeah, it's certainly something that you did hear as news of this started to break. There was a lot of, I know even in my in the newsroom and in my peer group outside of work, you would hear that, oh no, not this again. And it was this again. And, I don't know that any community is ever really prepared to deal with this kind of tragedy. Whenever children are involved, there's a special and profound kind of sadness that overcomes the community. There's a loss of potential and hope that's crushing to a lot of people, and I think that that affects people. We've seen that already with this news just breaking. We're already seeing, the mayor, Naheed Nenshi in town, has been tweeting out his condolences, and certainly we've been seeing this community come together to try and find Talia, to put out posters. The first day when it was announced that she was missing, her former babysitter was hanging up posters in the community. I spoke to a local teacher at the school around the corner from the home she lived that was obviously very upset, thinking that maybe this was one of the kids that she taught. This is there's really no way to describe this kind of tragedy, and I guess if you are looking for anything positive out of a horrible situation like this, it is the way that it can affect the people in a community, and that is something we've definitely seen here.
All right, Aaron, and thank you very much. We're seeing some activity at that lectern at Calgary Police. Let's listen.